Alright, so today I want to talk about the popstate and hashchange events, as well as the history.state property. So, just going to have a little bit of fun with the interface here. I've built a main container with a bunch of divs. I've given a class box that just sort of turns them into rounded squares. And I've got three different types. So there's one that's blue with the text Earth, one that says belt, one that says Mars, and there's three navigation elements here. So if I click on one of these, what I want to do, like right now it's not going to do anything. I click on that, nothing happens. But what I want to do is I want to be able to click on one of the three links and then have part of the interface appear. So this is kind of like a single page application, how it works. Depending on which part of the interface you're on, you're seeing different parts of the content. So I'm just having a little bit of fun with that idea. This isn't necessarily something that I recommend in an interface, it was just something fun to do. Okay, so what we want to do to start off is be able to click on one of these and filter what's showing on the page. So what I did was, inside of each one of the anchor tags, I created a couple of data properties. One that's the name, one that is the name of the planet. So data home. What I'm going to do is, based on my CSS that I've got right here, I'm going to add the class, or rather they have the classes Earth, Mars, and Belt on the boxes. And I'm going to add that class name to the main element. When I add the class to the main element, then only the ones that have the matching class. So if main has the class Earth, only the Earth boxes will show. If Mars is on main, only the Mars boxes will show. So just to test this, we'll come in here and we'll say, okay, if this has the class Earth, there we go. We've got these things showing up. If I change this to Mars, we've got the Mars ones showing up. And same thing for Belt. So we're going to sort of hijack the navigation so that when people click on one of those links, we're just going to have to get the data home value from here, make sure it's lowercase, and put it into here. So let's start with that, and then we'll get into the events that we're listening for. So DOM content loaded event, when that fires, I am going to call a function right here. That's my check state function. What this one's going to do is it's going to look at the location. So the value that's up here in the location bar. Now I can drive this based on state that has been saved attached to the page. So you can save state, you can save that data that I talked about in a previous video. You can save that associated with the page. Things like values that have been typed into a form, cookies, that kind of thing, those are associated with the page as well. But we can specifically, through the pushState and replaceState methods, put data that we want inside there. So I could use that. I could use the query string, or I could use the fragment identifier or hashtag value that is associated with this URL. So any of the three are going to work. The popstate event fires when the state changes. So as I'm navigating back and forth through the history array, I'm changing the state, I'm changing the stuff associated with the page. I'm selecting some new data. So that is changing this. Changing the query string, that's just going to sort of reload the page. So it's like a fresh load. But the hash change event, that is if we change the hash value. So right here, if I were to put this in there and I hit enter, I'm not really reloading the page. What I am is I'm targeting a different ID on the page. That's what this gets used for. But that will trigger the hash change event. So popstate, I'm going through navigation, hash change, this value is changing. I could technically have multiple entries in a row in the history array with the same hash value. Then going from one to the next isn't going to trigger hash change. For that reason, I prefer to use popstate, because that really is moving through the history array. So this is the event that I'm going to focus on for doing this, but I will demonstrate both. All right, so let's go back to our default state here. Oh, and as you're testing this, if you're playing around with this, anytime you want to get a new value, like right now, I've got the 2 entries in there when I change this. If you ever want to get back to a clean history, what you can do is either open up a new tab, paste it in there. There we go. I've got a brand new history array now with nothing in it except for that new tab. Or the other alternative is come into VS Code if you're using the live server, shut it down, and then relaunch it. That'll open up a new tab as well without that new tab. It just launches this page. All right, so let's jump into the code here. Updating the layout. Let's do that. Let's create that function. So what we're going to do is this function, we're passing in a class name, and we just want to add it to the main element. That's all we're going to do in this function. That's its sole responsibility. A good function should only really ever do one thing. We can create lots and lots of functions, and if these functions all have a very limited responsibility, it means we can chain them together and do that series of things without worrying about weird side effects or problems in our code. So place is the value that we're passing in. There we go. That's all we're going to do, is we're going to change whatever the class name is to this. Now, if there was an additional class name, like if there was something else in there to begin with, then we would use class list to remove Mars, Earth, or Belt and then add in the brand new one. But since we don't have to worry about that. We are just going to change the whole thing over to this. Okay, so great. When I call this, that's what's going to happen. We could add that into here if we wanted. We could just say, you know what, update layout. We can write this. I prefer to write app to target it. And if I come in here and I say Mars, I save it. When the page loads, and you can see here, as soon as it loads, that's what it does. And this is on document, on DOM content loaded. When that happens, this fires, this init function, which is what we're doing right here. So if it was Earth, then the Earth one shows up. So we can pick and choose what we want to have as the default at the beginning. But just hard coding it like this, that's going to ruin instances where, what if I had this? Let's say there's index.html, # Mars. What if somebody copied that link and they just opened that link? I'm still getting Earth here. I'm not getting Mars. So I want to be able to look and see, hey, what's the value up inside there? And then use that to call my update layout. And that's what our check state function is going to do. So we don't want to do this because that's hard-coded and it's overwriting anything that's actually going to happen. What I'm going to do is, and this honestly can be achieved just by coming in here and putting whatever we want as the default, like that. So I'll save that. There we go. So with this commented out, just changing the HTML, there it is. We're displaying that by default, regardless of what it says here. But we want to drive it from there. Okay, so let's come back. Check state. This function we're going to call when we initially load, and then every time that popstate or hash change events, one or the other. So our add listeners function, we've got a thing right here. We're going to run this function every time somebody clicks on one of the links. Let's also add listeners for, we'll do both popstate and hash change. Okay, I'm going to create a temporary function. We will use one of these in a minute, but I'm going to create a temporary function just so we can do some console log statements. Well, actually, here, let's do two of them. So one for pop and one for hash change. Okay, so if I open up the console here, oh, forgot my comma. There we go. So, location right here. This is coming from checkstate. So we're calling checkstate when we initially load. Neither popstate or hashchange happened. So the initial load of the page, we're not getting either popstate or hashchange. That's important to note. Our init function, firing, the page loaded, we're calling checkstate. We've added these listeners. But if we look inside of here, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we get with the location object. So this is window.location. That's what we're writing out here. It's window.location or just location. Inside there, there's a property called hash. Hash is the value that we have up here. So if I were to put pound sign with something like that, we load the page with that, there we can see, there's the hash value. And it's important to note the hash sign itself, that shows up if there is something following it, but if it's empty, if there is no string following it, this shows up as an empty string. So if I do that, we can see hash is empty even though there's a hash sign there. It's because there's nothing that comes after it. Okay, so hash is that. Search would be the query string if that's what you wanted to use. And there is also that history.state property I was talking about. So we'll take a look at that with one of these. All right, so in here, I'm clicking on the anchor tag. Oh, sorry, right now I've got this calling app.nav, which is probably, yes, there it is. So I'm killing the navigation right now. So I'm going to remove that. That's what was actually preventing the navigation from doing anything while we were testing this. So EV prevent default is stopping the anchor from actually navigating anywhere. All right, so if I click on here, I clicked on a link, popstate fired, and there was nothing inside of history null. I click on here, popstate goes again. I click on here, popstate goes again. So popstate fired 3 times, but the hash change didn't. And that is because the hash value didn't change. If I were to come in here and actually put something on this, like that, A, B, and C. If I click on here, there's the A. Click on here, there's the B. There's the C changing, and you'll also note that I am getting popstate and hashchange. They're both firing now. So both popstate and hashchange are firing. There's nothing that's been saved inside of the state property, so that's why these are all coming up as null. All right, so if I put prevent default here, now what I'm doing is I'm stopping the browser from actually doing what it normally does with anchors, which is take the new URL and put it up here. If it's only a hash value, put the new hash value up here. I'm not getting that change anymore. That's what prevent default is doing, is it's stopping any navigation. It's stopping the popstate or hash change events from actually firing. Those are only going to fire now here when I click back. Now you'll see I clicked back, both popstate and hash change fired. I click back again, again. So every time they're happening, these events are both firing. If there's a change in the hash, as well as navigating from one to the next inside the array, then both events are firing. Because both are firing most of the time, both of them at the same time, we don't really need to use both. I mean, there may be some instance where you do want to handle those two parts differently, but I'm just going to use the popstate event. So inside of here, I'm going to remove hash change because I don't need this thing firing twice. I'm going to have popstate, and it's going to call checkstate, my function right here that writes out the location. And this is the same one that we're firing up here inside of init. So when the page loads, this one's going to fire, and this one when you're going back and forth through the history array, clicking back or forward. Or if you're on a mobile device, if you're on an Android device, you click the back button. It's going to trigger popstate as well. So we've got popstate, we've got hashchange. Both of them, we can actually comment all this out now. We're not using any of that. Check state on load, check state when the person clicks back or forward. Okay, so we've got the location object. We know inside of the location object that we're getting things like the hash, which we want to use. There's also that history object that I mentioned earlier. And it's going to have that state property, but there's more to it. We can see the history object has a length. That is, how many things are inside of here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the current one that we're looking at. So there's 6 things inside there. The state is the data that we can put inside of there. So that's the history.state property, the one that we were writing out here that was always coming up as null. Okay, so we're going to get to this where we can use this when the page initially loads to look at those values. But just before we do that, let's do something with this navigation. I've got a default in my HTML, which is making the Mars blocks show up, but I want to be able to click here, get the value from that. So I want to be able to get this data home property. I'm going to save data home and data name inside of state, so I've got those things saved for the future. But I also want to take this value and add that to the query string. So that's what we're going to do here. Inside of our nav function, I'm going to create a variable called state that I'm going to put inside of history.state. And we'll take the home and the name properties. Now I can say name, name, home, home, or just the shorthand for that is just writing it like this. So I'm taking these two variables and I'm creating properties out of them. That's going to be my state. And the hash, what I want to do is I want to take the value from data home, that was the Earth Mars belt, but capitalized. I want to convert that to lowercase, put the hash sign in front of it, and that's going to be what I write in the location bar. So let's use interpolation here. So the hash sign first, and then the variable that I want is home, but I want to make sure that it's been converted to lowercase. There we go. So that's going to be what we add to the location. So let's do this. So we'll say history.pushState. So we stopped the browser handling the navigation. We're using pushState now to pretend that we're navigating. So we'll take our state object, put that in there. Title doesn't work. If you remember the video that I did, I'll put a link up above there to the pushState and replaceState video. And now here we have as the location, it's just the hash. So it'll take the current page, current domain name, and just add that hash onto the end of it. I don't know if you can hear it or not. My dog is dreaming next to me. It's busy barking and chasing something in her sleep. And then we will update layout. So what we're going to pass in there is the home value converted to lowercase. There we go. Okay, so pushState is going to rewrite what's written in the location bar, and then we're calling our update layout based on the value. So let's see if that works. So if I click on Earth, yeah, there we go, camel case. So if I click on Earth, there it is. Earth was written inside of here. So that was the pushState, was rewriting this and adding it to the history array. Then we called update layout to change the class inside of main, which is what changed the boxes that are being shown. And it works. So we are adding to the history array. I'm putting a whole bunch of stuff in there in the history array. You can see there's all the different parts. We're getting all of these things inserted into the history array. But you notice a problem here? We've got popstate and hashchange. It's the same title, every single one. that's not really a friendly thing to do to have set inside there. So what I want to do when I navigate is I want to change this to be this value right here, Earth. But I don't need to convert it to lowercase. So document.title. And we can just take the hash value, or sorry, the home value, without being converted to lowercase. Now, if I click on Earth, there we go, the title gets changed. So we've got it changed here. All right, our navigation is working. And our history array, hey, it's also changing them because it's got that title changed associated with what we've done here. Okay, great. So we've got navigation working, but what about that pop state? What about the initial load? If I click back, okay, great. It's changing what's written here and changing what's written in the title, what's written inside of here, but it's not updating anything here. And that's why we need the popstate event and the hash change, or the hash change. We're using popstate, but we're going to do the same thing. When the page loads and when the person clicks back or forward, we're going to go into that history object and the location object, get these values, and use those to update the interface. Okay, so let's do that. Inside of check_state, we're writing out what both those things are so we know all the values that we have access to, but I want to use them. So I'm going to check first to see inside of the location object. Is there actually something there? If there is something there, for this example, I'm just going to assume that it's one of our three values. It's going to be Earth or Mars or Belt. You should do error checking for this, but I'm just going to assume for this example. So if it's not there, we could do a check right here. So I'm saying, okay, if it doesn't exist or if it's not one of those three values, do this same thing. I'm going to replace. We can have a default object, no title, obviously, and the URL that we want is going to be Earth. We can do that document.title thing as well. So same thing we were doing inside of nav. So this is our default. There we are. So replace state, which will change and replace the current entry, the one that didn't have a hash value, with one that says Earth. Our data that we want to put in there was home and name. So home, Earth, name. Not that we're using it anywhere here, but just to show that we could put other data in there. There we have it. So now we've got default. When the page loads, this is what we're going to do. So let's kill this and start a new one, just so we've got a brand new empty history. And there we go. Earth. We started a brand new one. There was nothing there, so we don't have that old title. We changed it to Earth. We put Earth inside of here, and we replaced the current entry. If I look here, I can't click. There's nothing in the history. There's absolutely nothing there because this is the first load of this tab. Okay, there's our default load. But what if it does say something like Mars or Belt or Earth? Then I want to get that value. So we'll strip it out. You remember there is no hashtag if there's no value, but if there is, we're going to remove the hashtag from the front of it and then call our update and pass in whatever that hash value is. That's the thing that's going to update the class name and fix the interface. And document.title is going to be equal to hash. We can convert the first letter to uppercase. But now, if I were to come in here and type in a hash value, it works. So it's just like that. Load. We now have entries inside of here. If I go to one of them, that triggers popstate. Popstate reads those values. And we can go backwards and forwards through here. And that's all thanks to the popstate event and our ability to work with things like the history.state. And that's it. So hopefully that gives you a really good understanding of how popstate and hashchange work, along with some practical applications for it with a little bit funky interface. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. I'll answer as many as I have time for. If you found it helpful, please share and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.